is here. What light do you carry? Step into the sky. Step into the sky.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this and taking some time, and for serving as our Artist of the Month for January.
Well, thank you.
We're getting lots of, engagement and traction on the social media posts, so hopefully that will be of service and of benefit to you as well.
Thank you.
I can't believe we're, into our second year, almost at the end of our second year for the Heartland Song Network, and it's been a real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you. I thought, what I would like to share with our followers and members in this conversation is your education, what you feel about or how you collaborate with others, and the whole idea of mentorship, both being mentored by someone and providing serving as a mentor for someone else. I mean, it's kind of the three legs of our mission, empowering the art of the song through education, collaboration, and mentorship. And, I feel that trying to zero in on that in a conversation just goes any number of ways, and it's always a delight and a treasure to find out how those three concepts kind of factor into any generative artist's life. So, you and I have had conversations over the years, and I know that you're from Emporia originally and that you went to KU, but I'm not sure that I'm recalling exactly what your formal education, if any, is with music.
Right. Well, I mean, I was born in Kansas City, but at a really young age, we moved eventually to Topeka. And then from first grade on, I lived in Emporia. And so having grown up in a household, I think initially that was full of creativity and support. My parents were both former teachers, although that didn't carry through their whole life. There was a real interest in, reading, the arts, being exposed to the arts, visual arts, music, theater. So that was the foundation I started from. And I started playing by ear when I was 3. That was due to a lot of different factors. One is that I had really poor eyesight, but nobody knew that. So I learned by touch and by hearing. I was very drawn to the piano, and my mom sang a lot. My dad played upright bass in the Navy band, so I was surrounded by music of all kinds. A lot that had to do from the areas where our parents were from, and this all ties together to what you've asked, to Kansas City roots, to some New Orleans roots, to folk roots, to country roots. So every kind of music that you can imagine, including from my older siblings, Motown, rock and roll, blues, gospel, all that was folded into my daily life as a child. So I was really fortunate enough to have, even in a town as small as Emporia at that time, have really good teachers. So Mary Burke Norton was a piano teacher of mine from age 10 to about 13. She really had a lot to do with me remaining and keeping and developing my playing by ear and learning how to read music. So educationally wise, that was step 1. Step 2, as far as education, had to do with instructors in both junior high and high school, but especially high school, a man named Don Grant. And he was he was kind of scary to a teenage girl. He seemed strict, but really he was demanding in a positive way. And he had to audition to sing in his chorale and his different singing groups. And I was petrified to do it. I wasn't comfortable singing in front of people. I played piano all the time, but no, none of the singing business, although I liked it in groups. So he got me ready to go to the University of Kansas and be a music major in School of Fine Arts, majoring in music composition and minoring in voice. So it was a journey for me to take the leap from being able to just play stuff by ear to learning how to read music on the page, knowing that I wasn't, my goal wasn't to be a classical musician or pianist or an opera singer, but I studied opera at KU, which at that time was the main performance mode for voice major or minor. Now it's expanded, but it was kind of like running with weights as a singer. I was high soprano all through college and all through high school.
I've heard that more than once in interviewing people, that they were more secure in their instrument first,
Mm-hmm.
i.e., whether it's a piano, guitar, or whatever, and that it kind of became a crutch or a support vehicle for their singing, that they never did quite feel as comfortable with singing as they did, playing their instrument. And in some cases, their voice was, better than their playing, and they just had to come to that point, where they felt, secure
Right.
in that. I feel that you're one of those artists, in my experience, that, excels so much at each one. I would be hard pressed to say what I thought you did better, sing or play, because first and foremost, I consider you a songwriter.
I do too. That's where I mean, that's where my heart is. Or let me back up a little bit. I felt like in the natural evolution of who I was as a little bitty kid, the piano drew me in. I can't imagine my life without a piano. I also learned eventually how to play guitar, but I'm not as drawn to that, although I use it to songwrite. The next step at a very young age was trying to write my own songs. I started at a young age, and I knew that no matter what, and I don't know how I know this, Diana, but I knew at a young age, no matter what else I did in my life, I would always write. Writing would be there and piano would be there. And it wasn't until I was 16 and a couple of my brother's friends, older brother's friends, asked me to be in a band, not to sing, mind you, but to play keyboards that they had. And I got, permission from my parents, and these were good guys. And I think at that time they let me play one weekend a month. I had to be home at a certain time. And they are the ones that helped me get over the anxiety of singing in front of people by myself. Now I'd sing in groups, but the one thing that happened, and it was a pivotal moment in my life, was we played a gig at Emporia State. It was a formal, and I was 16, I guess. And I was getting paid. We were all getting paid $50 a piece, which at the time was a lot of money. And our singer didn't show up. She just didn't show. And all the other three guys in the band looked at me and they said, "Well, we sure hope you can sing because we're here." And that was a moment that I had a feeling of a lot of anxiety and stage fright. I also knew I could do it. And I had to step away from everybody and I said, "Yeah, just give me a minute." And I just stepped into the ladies' room and I thought, I'm either just going to
Pass
throw
out.
up, yeah, or I'm going to, and this was a big moment for me. I'm going to act as if I'm okay with this because I realize all these people at this formal, they don't know it's anything different. I'm just going to pretend like it's cool with me and I'm going to go do it for all it's worth.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
And that's exactly what I did. And I faked it and we got through the gig. And the guys looked at me and they went, okay, so she's fired and you're it. And I said, "Oh, great." And then I went, "Oh, no." So it was a choice that I made. And it took a while for me to learn how to do it well, so I could play and sing at the same time. And it took a while for me to get over the idea of being self-conscious about singing in front of people. Um, but I started early and it stuck.
Well, and it's definitely a gift. I was reading a quote from Tom Petty yesterday, that he doesn't really, fight it, or he didn't fight the inspirations or whatever just to write the songs, that he felt that he had been given a gift and that he really enjoyed doing it. And so why not share it with everybody? And why not feel good about doing it? You're providing, it's not so much providing a service, but you're sharing this gift that you have with the world. So the education through KU, and now you kind of find yourself and have found yourself quite a while in the role of an educator and a mentor.
Right.
And that seems to me how the career has evolved to that point where now it's your turn to give back in this way with the brave voice.
Right.
And
Well, Karen Miriam Goldberg and I started Brave Voice 17 years ago. And so that's been going on quite a while. And I've been doing workshops sometimes when I've been on tour over the last couple decades in schools, depending on where the tour takes us. And a lot of schools who had funding and grants for that, for me to come in and work with students. So I've really been doing that for quite a long time. But, excuse me, and I had wonderful, education at KU. I had a wonderful teacher, vocal coach, a lot of really great training, but that had served me really well. Obviously, when I'm out in the world, I'm not doing classical singing, although I've done some of that in the last couple of years, believe it or not, which has been really, really fun. But I have to say that when I'd say maybe 5 to 7 years ago, I decided to, do one-on-one vocal coaching. I also am a songwriting coach, performance preparation coach, and I did some teaching for a while, piano improvisational coaching in the kind of the blues and R&B gospel genre. So during the pandemic, beginning in March of 2020, I decided to do all that teaching online, and I'm still doing that. And what has happened, which is a really wonderful thing, is that I can have clients from all over the world.
right.
And right now, all of my clients are based in the U.S., and it's been really interesting. I don't do that 40 hours a week by any stretch of the imagination, but I have a pretty good roster of clients, of usually age 18 and up.
Did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that this is how it would evolve, or this is what it would morph into? Is this a
Well,
kind of online virtual virtual reality of not only performance, because you've been doing weekly, or had during the pandemic and are going to start them up again, these weekly concerts, now
right.
the collaborations and the lessons are virtual. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, I would think. I mean, we've only had one board meeting in person in the 2 years that we've been in existence. We
Right.
wouldn't be able to do what we've done or accomplish what we've accomplished without the aid of this technology. So I don't poo-poo it at all. I still like to see people in person and hug them and say hello. But I'm so thankful for artists like yourselves that you have these other options. You don't have to be on the road living out of a van or a bus,
Mhm.
to make it work. There are other options. Does collaboration come easily to you,
Um,
or
that's a great question.
does it depend on the person? I mean,
Well, here's what I'll say about that. I think that has evolved for me. Um, my husband manager, Al Berman, suggested that I do some co-writing, and he tried for 7 years to get me to try co-writing. This is many years ago. I'd already had 2 releases out. I was already, we had distribution. I was doing well, and I was touring a lot, and things were going well with how I had been proceeding as the sole writer. And I finally realized that the issue was all about my attitude about it. I was actually kind of, and it sounds kind of embarrassing to say this, but maybe other writers can relate. I felt pretty protective of my
sure,
writing process. This
sure,
is my
proprietary,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, and I'm doing well with it, and I'm having, a song and a movie, and all these things are happening. But the larger issue underneath that, Diana, was fear, because it's a very vulnerable place to be, to have your creative process revealed to somebody else, whether you know them or not. And there are some expectations I'd set up for myself, which really I know now weren't realistic. Um, so because and I have to say, it wasn't all the time. It was a gentle, talking through about co-writing. We were going to be in Nashville, and there were some songs that were being pitched of mine there. One that got picked up, which was, at the time, just a miracle. And the head of the songwriting, one of the songwriting divisions at that time, it was BMG. Excuse me. Wonderful guy named Michael Purrier, who's also a world-class songwriter. Al suggested while we were with Michael, hey, if you guys ever want to, get together and write, I thought, oh, Lord Jesus, don't say that to this guy. And he said, I would love that. When would you like to do that? And I thought, oh man, my first co-writing session is going to be with the head of a songwriting division at the largest publishing company in the world. What am I going to say? And I said,
Yes.
I said, sure. And we got back out to the car and I went, ah! And the session was the next day in in the songwriter building, with one of the rooms reserved that Michael had reserved for us for a 2-hour session. And I said, well, here's another fake it till you make it. I'm going to go in there like everything's cool. And I had a wonderful experience, I'm happy to say. And what I realized, Diana, on that very first session was that all songwriters don't have to know how to sing. They don't have to know how to play an instrument. They don't have to be performers. All they care about, the select songwriters that I'm talking about, the ones that are worth their salt, all they care about is serving the song. They just want to see what comes up, and they are not proprietary about the process. In fact, they don't have any ego involved.
I think
So
that's such a wonderful point to make. When we first started the Heartland Song Network and everything shut down and the activities that we had originally planned got thrown out the window,
yeah,
the first thing that we thought of is these what we call the COVID collaborations, where we paired
right.
members together arbitrarily. People didn't know each other. We didn't know how it was going to go or whether people would accept it. But I mean, it was just honestly the only thing that we could think to do.
Uh-huh.
And we had like 30 to 35 people sign up right away. And at
Yeah.
first, some of them were really taking issue and pushing back with the pairings that we made. We paired a hip hop artist with a country artist, and the country artist got a hold of us and said, really? I don't think so. And we said, just go ahead, please try it. You don't have to meet in person. Do everything virtually. We're all in a lockdown right now. We don't want anybody meeting personally. The long story made even longer is they got together. They did an amazing job. They wrote a kick-ass song, and they've become great friends and have done other songs. And we've heard from our members, you don't know what that meant to us at that particular time. It gave us something to do. It gave us something to look forward to. It taught me things about myself I didn't know. And this whole spending the last 50 years of being in the me generation, it's just sometimes you just got to be willing to communicate and to collaborate with someone
Yeah.
else. That it feels good.
It has enriched my life no end. And the writers that I've ended up collaborating with, like Gary Nicholson, who's a world-class writer, that he's written a litany of songs for a litany of artists, including, Ringo Starr, Delbert McClinton, the list goes on and on and on and on. Willie Nelson, Gary, Michael Purrier, Karen Miriam Goldberg, who was the poet laureate of the state of Kansas, who was a friend. We were brought together to collaborate for a specific performance. It was a breast cancer benefit at Lawrence Art Center, and she's a breast cancer survivor and a poet and a novelist, and that's how she and I got together. We thought, well, we'll try writing a song. We have written so many songs that I've recorded, and I've got and there are other writers I've written with as well. It has helped me understand that not every collaboration is going to work, and no hard
That's
feelings.
okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
no harm, no foul. the couple that I really thought would work well just didn't, and we both knew it. And we said, you know what? That's okay. I love your work. Well, if it's supposed to happen again, it will. And the surprising ones that I wasn't sure of, bam, here they were. That it helped me grow as a writer, and it helped me listen, and it also helped me give myself a break and not judge myself and not worry about um, what I was offering, because sometimes in collaborations, everybody works differently, obviously. You find what works for the two of you. But one of the writers I work with, we do what we call stream of consciousness writing. It's like throw it on the wall, see what sticks, and we do it out loud. And other writers want quiet and time to, so I've grown and continue to grow as a writer. And I've learned so much about other writers. And I'll tell you who's a good writer too that I've co-written with is Al Berman. He's a brilliant lyricist. But I helped me understand myself more as a person, as an artist, as a writer, and helped me appreciate the wide array of creativity that is swirling all around us.
Well,
It's
it is,
been,
it is, it is swirling. I talk about pixie dust all the time, in that
yeah,
there are those that have their antenna up all the time and that are
yes,
willing to receive it, but that, like, gosh, just the words for the sake of the song or to serve the song or empower the song through these
mhm,
collaborations. I think that in my past life as a listener and as a patron, I kind of gave short shrift to collaborations and just thought, oh, it's something that they're paid to do, or it's just something that comes naturally. It's not that big a deal, but it is a big deal.
it
It
is.
is a big deal when you learn what a private and a personal exercise generative art is. To be willing to be open to share it with someone else in the very in the very germinal stages, it's really, it's something to witness, and we're all the better for it. And
Yeah, and that's a
but
great way to put it. That's a beautiful way to state that, because for those of us who are, and that includes you, and Danny, and who are generating things out of our intention, our imagination, our creativity. Now we've done a lot of work to have the tools to be able to use those things, but I think the idea that we are literally making our way out of thin air, and the idea of inspiration, magic, serving the song, all those things are important. And I think it's equally as important that I've learned from others around me to have your technical skills together and have your business skills together.
amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. We say this all the time. We have discovered that so many of our artists in the heartland are world-class athletes. They are Olympic level athletes when it comes to their music. But when it comes to the business side of it, they're in
Mhm.
the first grade. And they don't, I'm not everybody, but we find that so much is lacking on that part. And so that we're trying to provide the resources, or at least the impetus or the suggestion to these folks that
Sure.
it's part of your art as well. And if you're not capable or willing to do it yourself, then please make sure that you've got someone in your circle of influence or sphere of influence that is willing to help you do it. Because you won't, if your goal is to get the music out there so that people can enjoy it and support you, then that is the element. There is an element of the business side of it that you're going to have to deal with at some point or another. You've chosen to stay in the heartland. Was there ever consideration given to locating somewhere else where the so-called music business resided?
Yes. Early on in my career, I was considering moving to Los Angeles, and this was, gosh, this was before. This would have been years and years and years ago, before my first self-titled album came out in 1994. I took a train out there. I had a friend that lived in Westwood, and had a manager that was interested in what I was doing. And I took a real hard look at what that would look like for me at that time. Now, the business at that time was very different than it is now. And my experience then was that I was being asked to become someone I wasn't.
Which happened a lot to women, still is happening, but boy, back
Yes.
in the day.
So by some miracle, I made the decision to step away from that. And then later on, when I was getting things published and things were going well, when I recorded in Nashville, let's see, it'd be my third, fourth, and fifth recording. I can't remember. Starting the third recording down in Nashville, I have a circle of pro level players who play with a lot of other artists that like Shelby Lynn and
Right.
A bunch of other people who are friends who have played on my records. And there was a time when we entertained the idea of moving to that community. And what I realized, now this is just for me and it's not for everybody, what I realized at that time was there is some element of who I am and what I do and how I do it that would not be served by focusing on that genre. I don't mean as country music, but the
Pop.
songwriting community at the time, what was there, what was available to the type of music I was doing, the touring I was doing, how could I make a living when I was there? Making a living as a musician in Nashville is really, really hard.
Right.
Just like it is in Austin. You almost pay to play there until you're at a certain level, and even then. So I realized, and it's even more so, in the last 10 or 15 years, that we can do all the business that we need to do there, record there, get songwrite, co-write, whatever it is, and still remain where we are. And then I could tour all of North America and Europe from my spot in the Heartland. I could also much more easily make a living being located where I am.
Yeah.
That to support those other things. And so it became less and less important about relocating as the online community developed, as social media developed, as our distribution developed, the publicists that we worked with. A lot of it just became easier when it could be done online. And I also made the conscious choice to stay in the area of the country that was near my family. My parents are older. I don't want to be 8 hours away or 10 hours away. And my siblings, and now my son has moved back from the Bay Area. I just realized that for me to stay healthy in my mind, my body, and my spirit, I needed to stay in the heartland, basically, because that served my creativity and it helped me make a living.
And I'm so thankful to hear that story and to be able to share that with our members and our followers, because one of our main goals is to create an industry or create a situation here where people don't leave, that they do stay here. And of course, the challenge that we're finding is that there isn't much industry here. You still have to go to Nashville to do certain things, or LA or New York. We're not aware of, or we're trying to make it known that the Heartland is a great place to do business.
Right.
As in the music business, and we would like to see publicists and people that do mastering and anything that's related with the business or the industry of music, that there's no reason why they can't live here and be prosperous as well. So that's another one of our goals or our visions is, if you're out there in the Heartland and you are a part of the industry, we want to know who and where you are so that we can help you connect with these incredible artists that are here, because we don't want the Kelley Hunts moving to LA or Nashville. We want you to stay. We want you to stay here. And I think, with the advent of technology, that's becoming easier and easier for us to be able to do. What's next for you? I mean, in the next, do you do strategic planning? Do you sit down and have 5-year plans and all that stuff? What's next?
We absolutely do that. And Al and I have strategy sessions, and we have on our calendars specific meetings to talk about what's next. And right now, what's next for me is the next album. And in fact, I've got 2 or 3 projects in the works. Music is written for it. We're sifting through all the material. And the things that we had planned on doing in 2020 that got shut down, as far as going to a recording studio and being around a bunch of people, now we're looking at when and how we can do that. So I've got albums in the works. We are planning, which we're redoing. In fact, it's almost ready to launch a new website, new approach to all my social media. And once we have a clear picture of when and how I'll be recording and how soon and who all that will involve, and we have some kind of a release date, we'll be timing things for rollout with a publicist, with our distributors out of Portland. And we're going to be, hopefully, now my fingers are crossed with the new, Omicron variant and Delta variant of COVID, that will start in earnest, the recordings process, hopefully in the next couple of months. But all the planning is being done right now for that. And then we'll look a year or 2 years ahead about how that's going to roll out.
And where will you record?
That's the question we're trying to answer right now. I've got a couple of favorite studios in Nashville that I just love, and I have a couple of favorite engineers there as well. But we are also actively looking in the Kansas City area to see if there's a way that. And here's kind of the catch for me, Diana. They have to have a really great grand piano. They have to have that. And an engineer, woman or man, that really knows what they're doing with that instrument. So
That's important and it's important to know what you need and what you want. And if it's not here, then go where it is.
I would love for it to be here, and and that very well may be the case. The musicians that I love to work with are based all over the country, so those things can be dealt with as well. So we don't really have a set plan yet, and that is completely due to what's happening with the pandemic.
Right. Well, you're in the same boat, as everybody else.
Yes.
Well, before I let you go, I would like for kind of our parting thought to be what you would tell the young songwriters. We've got so many young songwriters in our organizations that as young as 14.
Oh.
We've been doing youth swaps with kids that are still in high school, that are in high school.
Great.
We have a lot of young people. What would be your best advice to them right now, knowing the world that we're in right now?
Well, one thing I would tell them, and any burgeoning songwriter, is understand your craft. Listen to all genres of music. Listen to your favorite songs, only listen to them with a critical ear that says, why do I like this? Why does this work for me? What are they doing? And don't think that only one style of music is for you. One of the things I learned early on was, and boy, it was a great lesson to learn, it's a good thing. It's a fun thing to be a big fish in a small pond, where everybody, all your friends and your family, everybody thinks that you're great. And they love that song and they learn it and they know it. Okay. It's quite another thing to be a little bitty minnow in an ocean. So the way you get into that ocean and treat yourself like a minnow is to expose yourself to all of the great writers that are currently happening, that were happening decade ago, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. Why are they successful? The other thing I would say is many of us have had to, as writers, emulate other writers when we got started, just like we emulate other singers and other players, because we have to have a framework within to work. Like, how do we do this? Well, let's try it like they do. So we kind of get our little technical chops together that way as a writer. But then let yourself, or I should say, give yourself permission to say what you want to say. Don't say it the way you think anybody wants to hear it. Don't put yourself in a box of a genre. In fact, forget the genres. Say what you want to say in a way that you would have a conversation with somebody. And one of the great examples I love to use, and it's also keep it simple, is instead of saying with a song, trying to be flowery and poetic and trying to be fancy and do what you think you should do as a writer, say it as if you were having a conversation. For example, instead of saying, man, I love you so much, and I'm going to really make sure I do everything I can to keep you, and don't you dare go away. Say, because you're mine, I walk the line.
Yeah.
And take every word out of every song you've ever written that you don't need. You don't need them. And then just think, okay, expose myself to everything. I'm going to learn my craft. I'm going to take workshops. I'm going to read about it. I'm going to watch YouTube videos. You don't have to have money to do this stuff.
Right. Great.
And then just, say what you want to say the way you want to say it.
Yeah, that's such great advice, Kelley.
Oh, well, thanks.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I think about a lot about these young people that we're interacting with right now, and want to just take them by the shoulders and tell them it's going to be all right.
Yeah, because it will. It's going to be all right one way or the other.
If I've learned anything, is to be open to all genres of music. I think that we're trying to dispel all the time the notion that we're just about folk music or we're just about roots music. No. And with our Artists of the Month and the showcases that we've been putting together, we are really trying and making the effort to be diverse, not only in the ethnicity and the gender, but the genres of music. It's the song is everywhere. It's in all the genres of music. And I know. Thank you so much for your time today. And we're looking forward to this month and all of the information that we're going to be able to put out there. And I think we've posted about the concert that you're going to be doing on the 29th, going back to the streaming. Where's the best place for folks to access all things Kelley Hunt?
Well, you could go to the Kelley Hunt Facebook page, but just remind folks it's EY, KELLEY. And there will be event links to everything. You can also go to kelleyhunt.com, and within the next couple of days, there'll be a brand new site. There's a site there right now, but it will be updated shortly. Those are the best places. They can find me on Instagram and Twitter and Spotify and Apple Music and all of those, YouTube genres. But really, kelleyhunt.com and Kelley Hunt Music on Facebook.
Well, it's always good to see you and hear your lovely voice, and I'm loving the curly hair.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is what my hair actually really does.
Yeah, mine does too if I just leave it alone. Quit cutting it off.
I got tired of, So for now, this is the real deal.
Yeah. No, well, I haven't worn makeup in like 3 weeks, so it's liberating no end. Well, thanks again for your time, and have a great rest of your day. And I hope to see you really soon.
Yeah, me too, Diana. Thanks so much. And, best of luck to all the writers and all the artists on the Heartland Song Network. And thank you to you and to Danny Powell and everybody that's on that board and supporting it. It's so wonderful to see. And I'm on Team Heartland.
Oh, well, we're trying our best. Thank you so much, Kelley. Give my regards to Al, please.
I will do it. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What light do you carry? Step into the sky. Step into the sky. Gravity loves you, baby. Gravity loves you.